the Royal Wulff. Slight variant. I'm going to use a poly yarn for the wings and deer hair for the tail instead of moose or hackle fibers. It's going to be tied on a size 12 dry fly hook. I'm going to start my thread at the eye. I'm going to make a thread base halfway down the hook shank and then halfway back up. That'll give me my wing location. Alright, I'm going to clip off about 1 inch or 2 of this white poly yarn. Square up the ends. Measure for length, which will be the hook shank. Tie that in on top, making sure it stays on top, and make a few wraps back. See how I've lifted that and made sure every fiber stays on top. Okay, make a sloping cut and continue to bind down that poly material, creating a small taper. Alright, I'm going to stop there. This is where I'm going to tie in my deer hair tail. So I'm going to come into my deer hair patch, clip off a little chunk, comb out or brush out the under fur and the bad fibers. Okay, place them in my hair stacker. Pull them out of there. I always check the tips for broken off butt ends, and I can see one in there, so I'm just going to pull it out. Okay. The length I want to be about a gap to a gap and a half, so it kind of matches the hackle length that I'm going to be putting on this fly. Okay, that's going to look good, so I'm going to continue to tie it back to the end of the shank and back forward. Okay, I'm going to come in and reverse trim this, so from the back end at another angle, just like so, so that when I continue to wrap these ends down with touching turns, it kind of evens out the underbody from the wing to the tail. Okay, like so. Next thing to go in is a piece of Peacock Curl. I'm just going to grab one strand from my package, making sure it's a good complete strand without any missing hurls. And then I'm going to go ahead and clip off, adjust my light just a little bit so you can see better. Okay, clip off one strand and tie in this piece of hurl on my side of the hook shank. If you have to, spin your bobbin counterclockwise a little bit or just do a pinch and loop. But if you spin it counterclockwise, the thread will jump backwards or at least stay straight for you. Okay, I'm going to let the thread hang right there just before the hook point and start to make my wraps of hurl. Now I'm going to be real careful on this first couple wraps here of hurl to make sure that the best part of the hurl, which is the green iridescent fibered side, stands up, which makes for a fuller, better looking peacock body. Okay, as you can see, that's turning out really nice. Alright, after I've made half a dozen wraps or so, just making a small little butt end, tie that off, and then tie forward with the hurl, going forward a couple more wraps. Okay, this is where I'm going to tie in my red floss. I'm just using a single strand of red floss. It comes in a 4-strand spool, but like I said, I'm just going to use a single strand of it. I wet it in my mouth to align all the fibers and then clip it off square. Okay, tie it in, short my working thread here. Okay, tie that in on my side. Right back to the end of that first little peacock body and end in front of that herl. Okay, I'm going to start wrapping. I'm going to make a couple layers of this red floss because when it gets wet, that darker thread wants to show through it. So I just make a couple layers and that usually solves my problem. Make sure you keep tension on this floss and continue to kind of preen and stroke the fibers back. Okay? Make a couple wraps to tie that off, or I'll show you another trick that I do sometimes. I'm going to hold this so it doesn't come undone. Undo one wrap here. Okay, so sometimes what I do, sometimes it's even better, is, what's going on here? There we go. Okay, finish that last wrap back, is I'll fold this herl back and take one last full complete wrap in front of it, trapping it in the reverse direction again. That way it gets it out of your way, and then you can tie off. You don't have to do it that way, but it kind of makes it nice and neat. Make a few wraps to tie that off. Trim away. Okay. Wrap up a few more wraps, and again, taking care that so that the greenest, best part of the herl wraps first, or spikes up, I'm sorry, not first. And make that front section slightly larger, so one or two extra wraps in the back section. Tie it off. Okay. That's looking good. Next thing I'm going to do is check my wing length. I'm going to wrap it down just a couple more wraps because I want it to sit just a little further forward there for me. Okay, now I'm going to bring up those and start making some jamming wraps right in front of that wing, and then come down a little, go back up to it, jamming wraps right in front, down a little, because that creates a little ramp for the hackle to wrap down so that there's just not one big ball to jump off. Okay, that's slightly back. I'll get it even more. What I'm going to do is just hold those back, stick through the center with my bodkin, split that wing in half. Okay, make a couple wraps one way, hold the next side out of the way. Sorry you can't see right now. Hold the opposite wing. Okay, I've got those split. Let me go again. Now I'm going to start making a few posting wraps around each wing individually. Again, sorry if you can't see while I'm doing this far side. Okay, did 3 or 4 wraps around that one. Going to do the same around this one. Good. Doing your best to keep the fibers together. Okay, there's my split wings. Sometimes I'll put a little small drop of super glue on the base of these just to keep them separated, and fibers will stay a little better collected for you if you do this as well. Alright, so I'm going to put a small drop at the base of the near wing. Good. Small drop at the base of the far wing. Okay. Lid back on. Now I'm ready for my hackle. Okay, you can also pinch and twist these so they align together a little bit while that super glue is setting. Okay, I've prepared a size 12 brown hackle fiber. I'm going to tie this in again on my side. A couple wraps behind, and then continue to collect that stem as you go up towards the hook eye. Okay? Alright, I'm just going to use my fingers to wrap the hackle here just because I have a long enough hackle fiber, but you're welcome to use hackle pliers. Alright, start that first wrap. There's 1, 2, 3, and gonna sneak one more in behind. 4. And go right directly in front. 5, 6, 7. There we go. One more. 8. Okay. Tie off that hackle. There we go. Press everything back from the eye. And start making some jam wraps. Anything that's hanging forward over the eye will now be trapped backwards. And I'm creating a small head as well. Okay, there we go. Almost done here. Now I'm just going to grab my whip finish tool, or you can do it by hand. I'll do this one by hand for you. Come in and make your first whip over that eye. 2, 3, 4. Okay. Got a 4-turn whip finish on there. Make sure that that's nice and tight. Come in and pop off that thread with your blade edge. Now that I'm closer to this hackle tip, I can just pop that off by yanking a little bit forward. Okay, I'm going to collect these wings and just prepare them a little bit so it looks nicer. Traditionally they do lean a little bit forward, I think. That's how I like to do it. It looks nice. And the last step for me is I like to put a little drop of head cement on these floss wraps. They're going to darken down at first, but once it dries it'll brighten up again, and then when it gets wet in the water it'll stay brighter because those floss fibers will be sealed. Okay, a little drop on the head here. Okay, make sure the eye's clear. And there it is. The Royal Wulff. Thanks for watching.